last Sunday. Alessandro Galan did a fantastic ride, and so we're very pleased to introduce you to this new bike. I'm going to call. By the way, if I didn't tell you, I'm Karen Pine. I'm the general manager of BMC USA. I'm going to have Devin Riley come up, and he's going to go over the whole program.
Riley, I've known a lot of you guys via email thus so far, and it's awesome to see you all in person. Thank you all for making the trip up there. This is huge for us, and we wouldn't want you guys to miss it. What you'll find in front of you in that awesome little case is a thumb drive. What we got here is, in a second, I'm going to introduce Jonas. He's going to give about a 50-minute presentation.
To present you the Granfondo GF01. I will start with a video we did with Torque.
Or new rows in 60-70 km an hour, and then if you weak then you end up back in the bunch and then it's over. So you really have to have a hard mentality and just want to go out there and fight and not be scared and not be afraid to be dirty and hurt yourself.
Is a very specific race, extreme in any way, I mean in the distance, in the efforts and in these huge cobblestones.
We did with Torque back in February. Some of you might already have seen it, and yeah, I'm going to introduce you further into the Granfondo GF01 now. For us, the Granfondo GF01 is really a new series. It's positioned parallel to the existing models, so it's not below or above, for example, the Team Machine SLR1. It's really a different target group, and we see it as the same value of bike just for another customer. For us, when we talk about the Granfondo, our theme was the Gran Turismo of cycling. So maybe this needs a little bit of explanation. For us, the Gran Turismo is a full-on racing car, just with a little comfort that makes it comfortable enough for long distances, but it's still a race car. So that's exactly how we think about the Granfondo. It's a race bike, but with the added comfort that you need for the long rides to enjoy long rides without suffering. So yeah, that's how we think about the Granfondo. And one of the first things on those sheets is the rider who we target with this bike. So we need to know more about this rider. We need to get a clear picture of for who we do this bike. So for the Granfondo GF01, we identified 3 target groups. One is long-distance riders who enjoy the recreational side of cycling. They are not necessarily a racer, but for sure they are ambitious, and they want to enjoy the long rides comfortably. For us, it's also a perfect bike for riders who are new to the sport. They are probably not used to an aggressive position, and they enjoy the vertical compliance that this bike offers. So that's another target group for us with this bike. And without stereotyping, we also think it's a good bike for women. They have a more upright position. They can be confident with the stable handling of the bike, and they also will enjoy the additional comfort. So for us, the next step, once we know who is the rider we target, is to find out what are their requirements. We spend a lot of time basically analyzing what they want, and we identified 4 requirements that are key for such a bike. So the first one for us is confidence. a rider needs to feel confident on a bike, especially if he's a rider of our target group. He needs to feel that the bike supports him. It's easy to control this bike. The second requirement for us is vertical compliance. The bike should absorb the impacts and the vibrations from the road. That's an important point for us with this bike. Then, also important for us are the ergonomics. The bike, the rider should feel comfortable on the bike. It should fit him well. So that was also a target for us. And the fourth requirement for us was ease of use. Those riders want to spend their time on the bike and not in the workshop. So how did we address those requirements? Talking about confidence, for us, the base is always a good, solid and stiff frame. So we had to find solutions how to make our bike stiff without compromising vertical compliance. And we also have endurance geometry that offers a stable handling. So that means we have a bit of a slacker head angle, a longer wheelbase, longer chain stays, and more fork rake than normal. Talking about vertical compliance, we had very good experience with TCC, the tuned compliance concept that we introduced with the T-Machine SLR01. So we took this concept and modified it in a way that it suits our target group, and we will come into the details later on that. Also, a very important thing for the Granfondo GF01 is that it was basically designed around 28mm tires. So that's really part of the concept. They offer the compliance you want. They are also very durable. So it's an important part of the concept. Talking about ergonomics, we have a new endurance fit, we call it. So the bike has a different fit than the off-road bikes we have in our lineup. It has a bit shorter reach and a bit higher stack. So the position is a bit more upright. And we also, when we specified the bike, we looked for economical components such as a nice saddle, ergonomic bent handlebars. So it's all together that makes the bike ergonomic. For the ease of use, as I already said, we have the durable wide 28mm tires. Those are the high-end Continental foldable tires. We have nice tubeless-ready wheels, and for the first time we integrated the chain catcher into the frame design. So that was really a big step for us. It was also something that the team requested. So we found our own solution for that. So for us it's important that we need to put all those factors into one bike to make it really the perfect endurance bike. It's really not that we want to emphasize one and forget about the other. It's all four together that make our bike what we want. So I would like to go back a little bit in history. About 3 years ago we introduced the T-Machine SLR01, and it was received very well also by many of you. And it was the first time that we used TCC on a bike. The tuned compliance concept enabled us to set a benchmark in terms of vertical compliance. It was really the most comfortable race bike at that time. And we used TCC on seat stays, fork, and seat post. For us, TCC is a technology of careful selection of materials and also tube shapes. So we kept that for the new bike, for the Granfondo GF01, but brought it to the next level. So when we started the development of Granfondo GF01, we knew that we want more compliance, but we also realized that we come to a certain limit with the concept that we had in T-Machine SLR01, because what mainly gives the compliance, not just on these bikes, but also on many bikes of our competitors, is the seat post and the seat tube. And what we felt is that we have too much compliance in there. It starts to influence the pedaling. There's too much movement at the saddle if it gets too soft. And also for the fork, we could easily do a T-Machine fork that is a lot softer, but it will not feel stable on the braking, and therefore the rider would not feel confident with such a fork. So we had to find a new concept. This new concept is what we call angle compliance. So the idea behind it is very basic. It's, if you look at a classic road bike frame, it always consists of triangles that consist of straight elements. And as everyone might know, if you try to compress a straight element, even if it's thin, basically there's not a lot happening in there. So the basic idea of the Granfondo GF01 is to use such a bent element in the triangles, or also at the fork and seat post, to offer a lot more compliance. So yeah, it's an easy idea behind, but it's very effective. On the seat stays, the chain stays, the seat post and the fork. So what you see here is a testing machine we did especially for the Granfondo GF01 project. What we wanted is to have added compliance in the rear triangle, and we tested here. So what you see here is the bottom bracket is fixed, and we apply a force of about 1,000 newtons to the rear axle. And you see that the rear triangle alone absorbs a lot. The compliance happens between the rear axle and the bottom bracket. You cannot see the seat here, but if you would see the seat, you would see that the seat doesn't move on this machine during this test. So it means also the hits get absorbed not just to the bottom bracket, but also to the seat. You can also see the comparison in this test between the Granfondo GF01 and the SLR01. So you see that the Granfondo GF01 moves a lot more than the SLR01. So that's the added element we use on Granfondo GF01. Great example for the angle compliance. It's basically the same story as I explained with the triangle. If you look at most road forks today, they are quite straight. And if you hit something that is about 2 centimeters high, the hit comes straight into the direction of the fork blades. So they cannot compress because they're straight, and they cannot absorb this hit. They can absorb well smaller hits or bigger hits, but there's a certain size of obstacles that we come across that they cannot absorb very well. So that's why we use the angle compliance on the fork to make the fork comply for any type of hit. You also see, if you look at the dropout, you see how, a bit more in detail, how we developed this bike. The cross section of the chainstays is massively reduced right in front of